questions upon questions that your kids will continue to ask at this stage in trying to define and develop their own human personality. If these questions are not answered, or they are not answered completely, you just give your child vague answer. You are not providing satisfying answers that will feed their curiosity. Then you are leaving a khalal, you are leaving a gap in the kind of personality they do. At this point, I want you to ask yourself as a parent, how many of these do you do? Are you even ready for your child to be a teenager? These are big questions. If you leave that gap, your child will become a slave to his emotions. His desires will drive him here and there. Because at the time that he's supposed to lay solid foundation about or of his own personality, the foundation was sketchy. It was laid upon a weak foundation. He will be strange in himself. He will feel a kind of loneliness. And he would see that he misses someone to rely upon. If this is happening to people who have parents, we should ask ourselves as a community, what happens to people who are orphans, who do not even have parents? Where are the people standing for them, to help them to develop? Yeah, people will say, yeah, I give money to the orphanage. Who cares about your money? Underline what I said. Who cares? Where are the fatherly figures? Where are the parental figures to help the kids in our community to grow into complete personality? This is a question for those of us who hold leadership positions to ask ourselves and answer. If there's a gap, just like I said, at this stage of their lives, it also impacts on how they relate with others. Do they exude self-confidence, or do they have inferiority complex? This zahira, this manifestation is huge for a lot of us to deal with. And this age, just like I said before, and I repeat, is sensitive, so that we don't make our own words and our children a slave to their own imperfect personality. Whether we live long or we live very short, it's something that we need to consider. We need to start taking education, investing our time in learning, instead of sitting down there arguing about things that do not precisely concern us as individuals. We worry so much about maybe arguments in Islamic law or even politics of what we are not so concerned about. And we are not paying attention. We don't develop ourselves on how to train our own kids, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to ask us about them. They are our own responsibility and the responsibility of whoever who is put in our care. In this stage also, which as this stage advances into maturity, the ulama say zilzal. Zilzal is like an earthquake. It's an age. The experience for them is like an earthquake. Practically, you see them confused. And when this tremor is happening, by the leave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if in the early part of teenage they have received good education, it brings out the best in them, because they are trying to explore, they are trying to experiment. If the climb is good for them, they learn new things and they see a beautiful new world. So in as much as it looks like it's quaking, they say that there's light usually at the end of the tunnel for those of us who have done. You're not helping them at that stage very well. because they are going through a lot of turbulence and struggle within their own souls, within their own lives. They are more particular about how I look to my friends. So sometimes when you're telling your kids to not to maybe take something that has maybe pork, or you're telling them to dress in a kind of way, it's not because they don't believe that that's the right thing. You have trained them. But they are more particular about how their friends look at them. Or those people who have meaning to them, their uncles, their cousins. Even spiritually, to the spiritual developer, masters, it's a time to tame the soul. And when I say tame, I don't say chain the soul. To stylishly allow the soul its freedom to explore. Hafidhullah Shaykhana. I remember when we were with our teacher, may Allah continue to preserve him, there were things that he just left us to do. He would watch us. And now growing up, we realize, wow, so deliberately we are being left to try to explore some of these things. If your child passes this phase, he becomes a successful individual. His life is built upon a kind of foundation that will reduce the stress that he's going to go through in life. I mean, the stress of handling things. Because it's like the story of the butterfly and the cocoon.